I married a lame wife with free food and lodging and pocket money. I took care of my wife during the day and sneaked out at night. It was so wonderful. As a result, one day when I was dancing with a young man, my lame wife rushed in swiftly. She stared at me and sneered at her husband. This is what you call working the night shift. The agent of the dating website suddenly sent me a message, saying that a V-level customer here liked my information. I typed a question mark. This dating website, I seem to be here to get rice and rapeseed oil. I filled in all the registration information randomly, and used a sharp photo. Someone actually liked it. Can't be a liar anyway, it's either a liar or an ugly woman, I was sure in my heart. The agent quickly sent me a photo kiss. This is the photo of the woman. Before looking at the photo, I disdained it. After seeing the photo, my mouth was watering. Her nose was so high, her eyes were so deep, and her skin was so soft that it was like a baby's skin. She was my dream lover. In front of the beauty, I tried to stay alert. Where did the online photo come from? The agent replied, "Dear, the photo is absolutely real. If it's fake, I will compensate you 3 times. I was immediately shaken. What can you compensate me with 3 beautiful women? The agent was silent for a few seconds and said, "Dear, the client said something untrue. You can provide 30,000 yuan in mental damages. This plan seems to be quite good. I won't lose anything if I meet her. Maybe I can make 30,000 yuan. On the day of the blind date, the heroine didn't come. It was him who came. He looked very rich. The uncle was very honest. He came straight to the point. Hello, are you getting married? I was confused. The uncle realized that he was too straightforward and adjusted his sitting position. Sorry, let me introduce him briefly. He took out his mobile phone and said, "My daughter looks like this. She is indeed the beautiful lady," but then she changed her tone and said, "It's a pity that she has a lame leg." What lame beauty? Uncle took back his phone. So, we don't have high requirements for our son-in-law. Uncle looked at me and just pushed him to bask in the sun and give him a massage every day. Isn't this a nanny? Uncle tilted his head. When my daughter is lonely, I will talk to her. How to find one? Chat with her or find a wife. Uncle thought about it again. Of course, I have to fulfill my husband's duties. Isn't this nonsense? Uncle thought about it and said that he could give her about 500,000 pocket money every month. Father-in-law, you are my only father-in-law, and your daughter is my destined wife. I held Uncle's hand eagerly. Uncle, from the first time I saw you, I felt that you were as kind as my father. Uncle was a little stunned by my sudden enthusiasm. I smiled from ear to ear. Uncle, I think we are destined to be a family. My wife, when do we need to meet? I was very happy to see my father-in-law. I will take you to see him later, although I have seen his photo twice. But when I saw my wife in person, I was still amazed by her beauty. She was in front of the huge French window, with her eyes downcast and a thin blanket on her knees. A book was placed, and the warm yellow light shone on her side face, which looked a little unreal. Uncle called, "He, come and meet your husband." My wife raised her head and closed the book with her soft white hands. She looked at me and looked at the beauty. I was a little nervous. In order to hide my uneasiness, I raised my hand to her. Haha. She was amused by me. She was much more friendly when she laughed, and the alienation and indifference just now were removed, which made her more beautiful. I also laughed foolishly with her. God is jealous of beauty. How can such a beautiful face be a cripple? Thinking about it, I was fooled by myself again. If she wasn't a cripple, I wouldn't have gotten this good thing. I just married a crippled wife. But according to my uncle's request, I'm actually here to be a nanny. I'm best at taking care of little beauties. The first day of marriage. Jiang, he gave me a book. I lowered my head a little embarrassedly, but I didn't prepare a gift for you. Jiang, he raised his eyebrows and lightly raised the gift. I didn't care about his strangeness. I smiled shyly and took it from him. My wife is really beautiful and cultured. I like it very much. But the name of this book is really unique. It's called 300 Rules for Husbands and Wives. I was stunned. What is this? Jiang, he put his hands in front of him. You will know after taking a look. After 10 minutes, I was tired. The man should provide the woman with appropriate spiritual care and love, and the daily companionship time should not be less than 8 hours. I hurriedly asked if I could play by myself if I met the standard. Jiang, he nodded, and I didn't have time to be happy. He spoke again lightly, but Article 228 must be followed. I quickly turned to the back, strictly prohibiting men from having close contact with other women, and eliminating cheating due to lack of emotional foundation. I was very dissatisfied. If it wasn't this article, why was it only the man? Jiang, he spoke with relief because I wouldn't do that. I closed the book angrily. It was simply cruel, inhumane, and inhumane. It expressed my anger for me. Is there nothing in this code that both parties must abide by? Otherwise, just change the name to 7 trainings. Jiang, he hooked his hand at me and came a little closer. I walked over with a rage, but he suddenly came close and kissed me on the cheek. It was soft and cool, and the touch was very special. I blushed and distanced myself from him. Jiang He's eyes were filled with amusement. Article 240. Husband and wife need to kiss every day to maintain intimacy. This rule is to be followed by both parties. I was dumbfounded. There is such a rule. Before I had time to open the rules to read it, Jiang He put one hand on my chin and the other hand on half of his face, with the corners of his lips raised. Now it's your turn, husband. He deliberately dragged out the last two words, and the ending sound was very long. With her sexy voice it seemed frivolous and ambiguous. How could these two words come out of her mouth and make people blush and heartbeat? I felt my face was about to be scalded. After all, we are husband and wife, so there is nothing wrong with a kiss. I made up my mind and moved forward. I touched Jiang He's cheek like a dragonfly touching the water, and then quickly retreated. Jiang He didn't say anything, but raised his hand and peeped a few times at the place where I just kissed him. From his expression, I even felt that he was savoring the taste. Jiang He interrupted me again before I finished speaking. Article 270. There needs to be a sense of intimacy when addressing each other. Calling each other by their full names is not recommended. I'm almost losing my temper because of this damn couple rule. I'm getting angry. What should I call you then? Yin Yin Jiang Jiang, little darling or wife? The last sentence sounded strange to me, but Jiang He's eyes flickered and he covered his mouth and coughed lightly a few times. That's okay. I was actually trying to be sarcastic just now. In that case, I smiled at Jiang He and said, Wife, then is there anything else you need to tell me? Jiang He seemed to be choked by his own saliva and coughed violently a few times. I immediately patted his back with concern and said, What's wrong, wife? He grabbed my hand that I patted him, and the corners of his eyes seemed to be filled with an inexplicable excitement. At night, I was in a dilemma in the room. As a personal nanny, I should sleep with Jiang He, but I'm still a young man. Even a beautiful woman would feel embarrassed. I couldn't decide. By the time I got to the bathroom, Jiang He had already turned his wheelchair behind me. He stretched out his hand and poked me, asking, What are you thinking about? I was startled by the sudden voice. Just as I was about to turn around, my right foot was tripped by his wheelchair. In an instant, I fell to the side and then lay down on the big bed in the bedroom. Jiang He stared at me blankly for a few seconds, and then raised an ambiguous smile at the corner of his lips. My husband was so impatient that he lay on his back. I seemed to sense something was wrong. Why was he so impatient? I quickly jumped up. Jiang He just stared at me and smiled. I always felt that there was something unspeakable in that smile. He slowly took off his watch and put it aside. Today is our wedding night, I guess. I looked at his movements and swallowed silently. Jiang He's hands were so beautiful, white and slender, delicate and soft, coupled with his leisurely and comfortable movements. It was simply a sin, which led to me not paying attention. He kept talking until he suddenly came close to me, his eyes flashing with aggressiveness. It's not a good habit for a husband to be distracted. He was too close to me, so close that I could clearly see the little dragon hairs on his face. I was stunned where I was, watching his face getting bigger and bigger in my sight. He wouldn't want that, would he? Jiang He chuckled, leaned back again and spread his hands to me. What was he thinking? He held me for a long time before I understood what he meant. It turned out that it was inconvenient for him to get on the bed and he needed my help. I quickly stood up and prepared to carry him to the bed. When I moved his legs, I was in trouble. Which leg is lame? Jiang He was stunned for a moment and pointed to his left leg slowly. Before I could say anything, he pointed to his right leg and this one. I looked at his slender legs and felt a little sorry that both of them were lame. He nodded. I was curious about why. He hesitated. There was something wrong with the nerves in his legs. No feeling. My curiosity arose spontaneously. No feeling, doesn't that mean he can't sense his legs at all, the kind of feeling and no pain? I reached out and pinched his ankle. Doesn't that mean he can't feel anything? Jiang He nodded. I moved up along his ankle and pinched his calf. Still no feeling? Jiang He nodded. I bravely continued to touch upwards and touched his thigh. No feeling here either. Jiang He nodded again, but his face seemed to flush slightly. Due to being too curious, my hand unconsciously wandered to the root of his thigh. While touching, I asked, Then doesn't your entire lower body have any feeling? Jiang He hummed softly, and the flesh on his face became heavier. I concentrated on studying his unconscious legs, and didn't notice the fine beads of sweat on his forehead at all. Until Jiang He let out an uncontrollable hum in his throat. I was about to look up to check the situation, but he grabbed me with a big hand. I nodded tiredly. I had insomnia last night. Sure enough, I was still nervous sleeping with a beautiful woman. Jiang He noticed my dark circles and frowned. Didn't you sleep well last night? I was speechless for a moment. I couldn't say anything. You said I suffered from insomnia because of sleeping with him. I could only make up an excuse that I couldn't sleep at night because I didn't work. Actually, it wasn't a lie. After all, I really didn't sleep at night before. It was usually Shen Yang who asked me to go clubbing. Jiang He looked a little worried. You were still working at night. Have you been cheated by the company? I nodded perfunctorily. Maybe. Jiang He has a very regular schedule. He gets up to eat, basks in the sun, takes a walk, makes phone calls and reads documents. What I have to do is to accompany him to do these things. To be honest, it is a bit boring. Jiang He is very quiet most of the time. When I feel bored, I will meet his eyes. He always looks at me calmly, but there seems to be a lot of emotions hidden under the calmness. Are you bored? I quickly stated that accompanying you is my greatest pleasure. The corner of his mouth would hook up with an imperceptible smile, but other than that, I felt that he seemed a little weird because he continued during the few work calls. He was covert in saying things like, "It'll be over soon, wait a while, don't tell anyone, it's inconvenient not to talk about it," and so on. I didn't eavesdrop, I just heard it accidentally. I guess that Jiang He might be doing something not so good, maybe some company's illegal operation, so I was a little worried. If Jiang He went to jail for a crime, would I be finished too? Just when I was racking my brains to think about how to persuade him, he took the initiative to find me. Jiang He frowned and stroked my eyes with his slender index finger. His fingertips were hot, and the touch was very comfortable like an ISPA. When I was immersed in it, he suddenly asked, "Do you want to work so much?" I was stunned for a few seconds and he lowered his eyes and continued, "If work can make you sleep well, then go for it." Only then did I react. He was talking about the anger I caused a few days ago. I haven't been here for the past few days. Too used to it, I haven't slept well, so he may have misunderstood. I was about to refuse subconsciously, but suddenly I found this was an opportunity. I accompany Jiang He in this mansion every day, and I'm almost moldy. It's just right to take this opportunity to regain my freedom. I was too happy that I even temporarily forgot that Jiang He had done something bad. So I looked at him with gratitude. "Really, wife, thank you?" Jiang He was a little unnatural because of my affectionate thanks. He covered half of his face. On the first day of the night shift, I immediately called Shen Yang. He sounded like he was in a bar with noisy background music. "Aren't you getting married?" I also shouted. "Where are you?" "I'm in the bayou room, the one we used to go to most often." I hung up the phone and started to change my clothes. After dressing coolly, Jiang He appeared. The moment he saw me, his eyes widened at first, then he was stunned and finally became very puzzled. He even thought hurriedly I wanted to stand up directly, and my butt seemed to have just been lifted from the wheelchair, but he tried hard to sit back. I realized that I was wearing a disco suit and quickly put on my coat. Jiang He was already turning his wheelchair towards me with a grunt. "Aren't you going to work? Why are you dressed like this?" I panicked and stammered to explain, "It's not that I want to try on clothes, I don't wear this to work." Jiang He breathed a sigh of relief, and I pushed him out in a panic. I wanted to change clothes. Jiang He held the wheel with his hands and tried to turn his head back. We are an old couple, and we are shy even when changing clothes. I blushed all of a sudden because he occasionally needs my help when changing clothes, so I almost saw him naked these days. In order to make him feel that he is not at a disadvantage, I will not deliberately cover myself when changing clothes. Although it is quite intimate, we are not an old couple. I was anxious and shy and I didn't care about much for a while. I pushed him out without saying a word and changed my clothes. I found Jiang He had been waiting for me outside the door. When I came out, he took the initiative to say, "I'll send someone to take you there." It sounds cool to ask him to take me there, but it's not appropriate to ask him to take me to the bar. I quickly refused. No, the fun of going to work is to do a lot of work alone. Jiang He's handsome eyebrows wrinkled into a ball, and his handsome face was full of confusion. He seemed to be trying very hard to understand what I said, but obviously he couldn't, and from his eyes I could see that he seemed to think I was not normal. I laughed it off and said, "A rich second generation like you definitely wouldn't understand. I'll go first." Jiang's lighting was very attractive, the DJ in the bar was very beautiful, and the beautiful girls and handsome guys were jumping happily. Only I, who was in a formal suit, looked very out of place. Shen Yang was amused by me and giggled. "You are dressed like this, Su Qing, how can you be a henpecked husband?" "Bah, who is a henpecked husband?" I grabbed him and said, "What do you know? This is called uniform school." Shen Yang looked at me with a look of a fool. Me, he touched my face with great heartache. "Getting married has worn away your sharpness." I smiled and stretched out 5 fingers to him. "Guess how much pocket money my wife gives me every month?" Shen Yang stared at me, and spoke with some doubt. 500 yuan, my fist hardened. I glared at him and added 3 more zeros. Shen Yang began to count his fingers, and after counting the number of zeros, he gave me a bear hug without hesitation. The wealthy Shen Yang took me to the karaoke room. Inside with ease, we are going to experience something unique now. And then I realized that the world of rich people is really different. I used to be able to only jump in the hall. Now I can open a private room and order people to jump. 10 minutes later, I looked at the beautiful girls standing in a row. My drool almost fell to the ground. How could they not observe the virtues of women, and actually fell into the spring? Shen Yang hooked his fingers, called a gentle type to pour him a glass of wine, and then went to dance with the fresh meaty type. I followed suit, and soon I was intoxicated in this world of decadence and extravagance. The beauties here were professionally trained and very good at handling things. If Jiang He hadn't called me, I would have almost forgotten that I had a lame wife at home. When the phone lit up, I looked at the time. It was already 1 a.m., and Jiang He's name was brightly displayed on the screen. He hadn't slept yet? I was doomed. Had he been discovered? I was in a hurry and escaped from the pile of beauties to the bathroom. I heard his slightly hoarse voice from the other end of the phone. Haven't you got off work yet? I cleared my throat a little artificially. I was about to get off work. Jiang he hummed softly, trying the location of the tunnel. He sent me someone to pick you up. Listening to the faint music next door, I was afraid of being exposed, so I tried to block the receiver. No, I'll take a taxi. Jiang he paused quickly, but it was too late and very dangerous. His voice even sounded a little pitiful, which made me feel deeply guilty. I made up my mind and said nothing more. I'll finish my work soon. Then I hung up the phone and went home. I was like a thief tiptoeing like a thief. I was groping my way into the room in the dark when I fell into a cool embrace. Jiang he turned on the small light by the door, and I saw him waiting at the door. I didn't know how long I had been waiting, and I sat on him without noticing. I got up quickly, but he pushed me back without saying a word. His arm was around half of my body, and his chin was on my shoulder. The coolness of the night was exactly opposite to the warm breath he exhaled. Aren't you tired? I felt guilty and avoided his eyes. No, I'm not tired. He rubbed his chin against my shoulder and said in a low voice, It's because I can't see you. I'm very tired. I was stiff and didn't dare to move. Took me a long time to think of a good reason. I would go to work on weekends in the future, and I wouldn't go when I got my work and rest schedule right. Jiang he seemed to be very happy all of a sudden. Really? I nodded vigorously. Jiang he hugged me for a while, and kept when I was about to go wash up. He reluctantly let go. While washing up I blamed myself. How could I lie to my wife? Now I have to keep lying to make up for it. What a sin. So later, Shen Shujin asked me to play again, but I refused righteously and said firmly that I would go at most once a week. Well, this is quite too much. In fact, in order to make up for lying to Jiang he, I took the initiative to offer him a massage. Jiang he was a little hesitant at first, but seeing my sincere attitude, he nodded in agreement. I rubbed my hands and worked hard. Only then did I realize that Jiang he's legs were very textured. While massaging I felt a little strange. His legs had never touched the ground, so shouldn't his muscles have atrophied long ago? I was curious and asked, how do you maintain your muscles without using any strength in your legs? Jiang he's expression instantly became a little flustered, but I didn't notice his abnormality and continued to ask if he drank protein powder every day. Jiang he was stunned for a moment and immediately he nodded like a chick pecking at rice. Yes, that's right. I understand. Rich people must drink high-end protein powder, which has a good muscle content. During the massage I looked at Jiang he's enjoying expression and felt something was wrong, but I couldn't remember it for a while. A few days later, my father-in-law suddenly came to me and said that the customized wedding gift was ready and asked me to go and see if it was suitable. My first reaction was of course to refuse, but how could it be suitable? My father-in-law was wearing his big gold and diamond watch, and he didn't care much about it. What's wrong with it? You go and see it yourself. If you don't like it, let them wear it again. I was about to continue to make excuses, but my father-in-law turned his head. Jiang he wanted to go with me, but I felt it was inconvenient for him to travel, so I refused and it was most comfortable for him to go by himself. The address was a very high-end jewelry store. His family was rich, but they might not be able to buy the series. I handed over the invoice according to the information my father-in-law gave me. I came to pick up a custom-made one 2 weeks ago. Item number 108. The clerk looked me up and down, with a forced smile on his face. He took me reluctantly and said, "Come with me." The clerk went to help me get something, while I was bored and looking at the goods at the counter. A ring displayed in the glass display case instantly caught my attention. It was too delicate and appealed to my aesthetic taste. When the clerk brought the thing out, he saw me drooling over the counter. He no longer concealed his emotions and handed me an exquisite bag with disgust. "Don't look at it anymore, you can't afford it." I looked up with a confused look on my face. The arrogance in his eyes was about to overflow. "This counter is all custom-made. We only make one piece. This one is for a distinguished customer and has been ordered long ago. You can't buy it even if you look at it with your eyes peeled." I was about to explain, he started talking babble again. "Come to pick up some goods for your master, so don't fantasize about crossing classes." I said patiently, "I just think it looks good." The clerk showed a sarcastic smile on his face. "So what if it looks good? Not everyone can buy our things." Hearing him say that, I finally began to examine myself. I was wearing ordinary sportswear and did not look very rich. Was that because my father-in-law notified me so suddenly? Seeing that I didn't say anything, he continued, "Get the goods and leave quickly. Don't talk here, as our family seems low class." I was a little unhappy. Just as I was about to talk to him, I saw him walking behind me with a smile on his face. "Assistant, why are you here? Are you here to buy new goods?" I turned around and saw that it was my wife's assistant. Assistant, he had a stern face. It was not the clerk's smile that had not diminished. It was assistant, he who came to find the designer. He slapped his hand away and said in a faint tone, "The clerk who came to pick up my son-in-law was stunned." Then I saw Jiang he being pushed in with a cold face. "Who gave you the courage to say that my husband is a nobody?" The clerk looked back at me with disbelief on his face. Jiang he was obviously sitting in a wheelchair, but his momentum overwhelmed everyone on the scene. He pointed to the ring I just liked and squinted his eyes. That was the one I ordered for my husband, why couldn't I like it? The clerk was dragged away with a pale face, cursing at him all the way. When I got home I held my diamond ring and diamond watch, smiling from ear to ear, completely forgetting the unpleasantness just now. It was also very design conscious. I repeatedly admired the fit of the ring and bracelet on my hand at the same time, but suddenly remembered a question. Jiang-hee, how do you know what size ring I wear? The watch ordered by my father-in-law is not strange, but the ring ordered by Jiang-hee is too suitable. My mother stuffed that a ring not too big or too small, it feels like it was made according to my finger, and I even feel like even the style is based on what I like. Jiang-hee coughed several times. Is it a good fit? That must be a coincidence. I seem to understand. Didn't you decide on the size? She scratched her head. I said one at random. It seemed to be a one-size-fits-all. I was stunned for a moment. I thought there are one-size-fits-all rings. I learned something new. As expected, if people only stay in their own class, they are still too shallow. I looked like I understood. So that's how it is. I didn't notice the extremely distorted look on Jiang-hee's face. However, after this, Jiang-hee's image in my mind has become higher. After dinner, Jiang-hee made another phone call alone. I saw that he didn't eat much at noon and was a little worried, so I followed him. I didn't expect that I would run into his secret conversation again. Now is not the time. Don't be anxious. Just hide it and be perfunctory. I hid in the corner. I covered my mouth silently. What on earth was Jiang-hee doing? What shameful thing should I do? He is so good to me, should I persuade him not to go astray? I was struggling with it. Jiang-hee had already hung up the phone. Coming back from the garden, I pretended to have just come to see him. What are you doing, wife? Jiang-hee's expression was indeed wrong. He quickly put the phone in his pocket and concealed his tone. It was a work call. I glanced at him. His two hands were tangled together due to nervousness. There was indeed a problem. Jiang-hee has always been sincere to me, and I shouldn't sit idly by. If I can persuade him to mend his ways, it would be the best. If not, let's talk about it later. I decided to have a frank talk with Jiang-hee. At night, I carried Jiang-hee to bed as usual, but I kept a straight face and remained silent. Jiang-hee noticed that something was wrong with me. What's wrong? You don't seem happy. I didn't say anything but lifted the quilt and sat in it myself, and then looked at him solemnly for a long while until he was a little flustered. What happened? I slowly opened my mouth. Jiang-he, I know everything. Jiang-he was stunned for a moment, reacted blankly for a few seconds, and then instantly, as if struck by lightning, I repeated word by word. I said I know everything. Jiang-he seemed to lose his strength instantly. The whole person collapsed. As expected. You heard it. I nodded. He seemed to have suffered a great blow. The aura became depressed. This kind of thing should be really uncomfortable for people around him to find out. Giving him some time to think, I continued, do you know that what you are doing is wrong? Jiang-he was like a listless little chicken, nodded weakly. His voice was as thin as a mosquito. Knowing that, why do you still do this? He didn't dare to look me in the eye. I'm sorry. And then self-examination. Generally, I am eager for quick success. What is eager for quick success? High profit is a bad thing, but his attitude of admitting mistakes, it's still quite good. How could I have been so obsessed in the first place? I sighed and interrupted him. Then do you want to continue? Jiang-hee lowered his head and shook his head very slightly, almost stammering. No. I couldn't help but touch his head. Such a good child must have been fooled. Jiang-hee suddenly raised his head and looked at me. He pulled my sleeves with pleading in his eyes. Su-Qing, don't hate me for this. I waved my hands. How could he correct his mistakes? He's still a good boy. Jiang-hee wanted to continue to confess his mistakes to me, but I received an invitation text message from Shan Shijin. I didn't want to go at first, but my favorite DJ was in the photo. I symbolically listened to Jiang-hee's heartfelt words for a while. Well, it's okay, but you must change immediately. I'll go to work first. Jiang-hee looked at me blankly. Are you going today too? Today is not the weekend, so I shouldn't have classes. I was a little embarrassed but tried to stay calm. Well, here you go. We arrived at a familiar place. Shen Shijin hooked his arm around my shoulders and said, Brother, aren't you very nice? I gave him a thumbs up and he winked at me. I was about to tease him when I found that he had already walked straight behind me. There was a beautiful DJ playing music right behind me and beautiful women dancing. What could be happier than this? Plus, I was in a very good mood today and soon got excited. Because the consumption here has been quite high recently, the employees here all know me. The resident hottie walked towards me with a cup in hand and said, Brother, you haven't come to dance with me for a long time. She curled her lips and looked a little aggrieved. Emma, this poor little thing. I was filled with love and supported her face. Here it comes. The hottie smiled with satisfaction and drank the mojito in one gulp. She put down the glass casually and then extended an inviting hand to me. Very good. I've booked a dance bar for today. I smiled and went to woo with him. Jiang. Just as I was shaking my head and laughing loudly, not knowing what the world was, I suddenly felt a chill on my back and couldn't help shivering. At the same time, I saw a familiar figure, Jiang-hee. He approached me step by step with nimble legs and feet. His eyes were a bit like a wolf, emitting a sinister light in the dim place. After realizing that he was locking his eyes on me, I was stunned as to why he came here, and why he stood up. His excessive anger stimulated his ran and do meridians. When I was stunned, the hot girl was still waving her hands in front of me. My brother was summoned back to reality by her voice. I was so scared that I slapped her hand away and rushed off the dance floor. The hot girl's face was immediately covered with injuries, but I couldn't take care of her. Jiang He took big steps and stood in front of me in a few breaths. She stared at me and smiled a little coldly. "Husband, this is what you call the night shift." I said, "I'm a resident singer here, do you believe it?" 10 minutes later, Jiang He dragged me to sit in the Porsche. I changed my previous style and was as quiet as a chicken. Although I had just lectured him 2 hours ago, I knew that I should just listen to him quietly. Jiang He had a complicated face. "I thought you were angry and worried so you follow me, but I didn't expect it." I pounded my head and finally understood. Jiang He didn't dare to look me in the face just now. It would be embarrassing and a shame to be caught doing bad things. He continued to ask if you went to work like this before. I was so sad that I couldn't cry. Even if I said no, I believed Jiang He would know the truth. It would be better to confess and reduce the sentence as appropriate. After getting my affirmative answer, Jiang He was silent for a long time. His eyes were slightly red and he spoke after a long time. "So you really don't care about me at all?" His voice was difficult, and my heart trembled when I heard it. I shook my head vigorously. No, Jiang He pursed his lips. "I know I shouldn't have lied to you, so after you brought it up, I felt really bad for smashing the wheelchair. I just really hope you could be by my side. If you want a divorce now, I won't force you, but don't be like this." Jiang He's eyes were getting redder and redder, but I was a little confused. Why didn't I understand what he said? Why did he smash the wheelchair? I still want a divorce. It's good enough that he doesn't divorce me. I tried to ask if I could ask how your leg got better. It was fine after getting the wheelchair. Jiang He was stunned. He frowned slightly with a puzzled expression. "Didn't you find out everything?" I was confused. What did I find? Jiang He was also confused. "Didn't you say you heard everything?" After a long explanation, I realized that it was a big misunderstanding. Jiang He meant hiding the fact that he pretended to be lame from the company. He only said to the outside world that he was resting at home. The employees didn't know that his president was lame, and because he was absent for too long, and his assistants, I'm worried about being exposed, so I'd call and ask from time to time, so I heard those encrypted conversations. I still don't understand, but why are you pretending to be lame? Jiang He ignored me, so he pretended to be lame. I work the night shift, can we cancel each other out? Jiang He hesitated for a long time, skipped my question, and spoke again. If you want a divorce, mention it now, otherwise I can't guarantee that I will agree to it later. How can I divorce? I thought the wife I married was lame, and I didn't dare to do anything to her. Now that she's not lame, how can I let go of such a beautiful woman? Not to mention a super rich beautiful woman? I'm anxious. Who's getting a divorce? I won't get a divorce. Jiang He was a little puzzled and looked at me. Of course I can't say that I'm pestering her for her body and money. I put my hands on my hips, feeling justified but confident. Anyway, I'm not getting a divorce. Don't even think about divorcing me. I dance with them only because you can't dance, otherwise I will definitely dance with you. Jiang He looked at me after a while. He suddenly smiled, and stretched out his little finger towards me, his eyes bright. That's a deal, do we have to make a pinky promise if we don't get divorced? I hooked his little finger without hesitation. Whoever gets divorced will be a puppy. The reason why Jiang He pretended to be lame was answered from his father-in-law and his browsing history. His father-in-law had a serious face and spoke to him. He knew that you would definitely not agree to his proposal without reason, and he was afraid that you would feel pressured if you suddenly came to our house, so he had to resort to this last resort. He didn't mean to deceive you, but he just wanted you to take better care of her. I frowned and said to him, "Father-in-law, don't worry, I will take good care of her." Jiang He's browsing history directly opened my eyes. How to convince others to get married, how to marry someone you don't know, how to successfully marry into a wealthy family. The methods of marrying into a wealthy family made me laugh to death, and those who didn't know would think he was the man. One answer was, "Here is the suggestion to go directly to a wealthy family as a nanny and take care of the disabled daughter of the landlord." It was very well received, and Jiang He also liked it, so he married directly, but he thought I was too tall. He even if not married, this good thing I will not refuse good. I finally remember with hindsight, I first tried to explore the river's legs. His face is not natural flushing, and his legs on the feel of the muscles I actually believe is to eat protein powder to eat out of, as well as I gave him a massage when he had a face of enjoyment of the expression, if there is no sensation of the legs, he enjoys the hairline. In my repeated assurances that I will not go to find fresh meat after dancing, he finally confessed to me. He is really old, look at me, just from my first time to see me. He is really old, look at me. If it is not sentient legs, he enjoys a hairline. In my repeated assurances, will not go back to the little fresh meat dance. Jiang He finally confessed to me. He is indeed a long time ago, look at me, from the first time I bravely chased the thief for the old grandpa, and beat the thief up. He met me many times, is that I did not pay attention to him with his words. It's hard to see a handsome boy, not only in his heart, but also so righteous. He is a good boy, but also a good boy, and he is a good boy. Heart, but also so righteous. Even my previous in order to receive rice and oil registered dating site thing, it was arranged by him. Otherwise, how could there be such a kind dating website that would give away 10 kilograms of rice and 2 barrels of rapeseed oil if you just fill in some false information? I remembered something again and shook my diamond-studded and silver-clad hand towards Zhang He. What about the ring? How did you know the size of my ring? I actually believed it was a one-size-fits-all. That kind of idiot statement was really stupid. Looking at Zhang He, I was very alert. You wouldn't send someone to follow me, would you? Zhang He cried out that he was wronged. Don't you remember trying the size on the spot when you registered for the dating website? After he said this, I recalled that it seemed to be true. At that time, the uncle insisted that I register my fingerprints, saying that I could give away a ring if the match was successful. At that time, I thought that the process of this website was really perfect. Even the size of the wedding ring had to be known in advance. Now I think it was premeditated. I stared at Zhang He, but he didn't say anything, just looked at me and smiled. After the confession, Zhang He was relieved a lot. More, maybe he doesn't have to pretend to be lame anymore. I feel that he walks very lightly, considering that when he pretended to be lame before, I took great pains to take care of him. Now that he is no longer lame, of course I have to return it. There is a parasol in the garden, and under the parasol is a sun lounger. I am lying on the sun lounger. Zhang He wiped the non-existent sweat on my forehead and asked my husband diligently, "Is this force okay?" I adjusted my sunglasses and nodded lazily. "It's okay. Move it down a little." Zhang He moved down a little and continued to massage with force. Not to mention that his skills are not bad. In the afternoon, I sat in the newly bought dream wheelchair. Zhang He pushed me for a walk in the community. At the fork in the road, he pointed and asked me to go this way and that way. Zhang He was very obedient. I pushed me wherever I said to go. Due to its peculiar shape, the rate of turning heads is quite high. People on the road frequently look at me. Of course, there are also Zhang He's acquaintances. Whenever he encounters the surprised eyes of acquaintances, Zhang He will smile helplessly, and then explain one by one that my husband's feet are tired and he doesn't want to get off at night. I was sitting in a wheelchair and reached out to Zhang He. He bent down consciously and picked me up with difficulty. Zhang He lifted a corner of the quilt and gently put me down. I covered the quilt, rolled it up and deliberately said, "Okay, you can leave now." Zhang He was stunned. I shrank into the quilt, leaving only my head exposed. I slept by myself. Zhang He laughed angrily. "Husband, I didn't chase you away." I ignored him. "So can't I chase you away?" He stared at me for a long time, then turned around and walked to the door silently, turned off the lights and held my breath to listen to his movements. He really left. I stretched my neck to look at the door, but as soon as I stretched my neck, I was knocked down by a figure who had returned. Zhang He pressed me under him and put his arms around my waist through the quilt. I was secretly wrapped in his breath. In the moonlight, I could see his slightly raised eyebrows. He lay beside my ear and breathed softly. "Husband, you have no say over what happens at night. It's over."